Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt the distraught by getting destroyed by two brilliant moves in your game on chess.com? Well, instead of chess.com, we're going to analyze a game between two masters, Vish Anand and Aronian, and we're going to see how Aronian got completely destroyed. So let's dive right into it. So, we have a d4, d5. This isn't exactly my area of expertise, but I still know some things about this opening. We have c6. This is known as the semi-Slav. And we're transposing into a Catalan type setup where white, well, not really now, but usually in these type of positions, white will play g3 and bishop to g2 and try to attack black on this diagonal. And black will try to keep his center solid and, try to make his position justified. Now, there are usually two variations in a slightly different move order. Black can either take, which we call the open Catalan, where black accepts the sacrifice, but he is inviting white for some potential d5 ideas, e4, d5, gaining the center, and his bishop now is slightly more justified due to the less pawns on that same diagonal. Instead, we have a knight f6, which is a regular closed Catalan, where black tries to stay more solid. We have a knight c3, e6. This is kind of now transposing into a triangle variation. You can see it's a triangle because it literally forms a triangle. I don't know how more triangle that could be. Triangular. The point is that white can now never actually get to black's pawn center through black's pawn center, but he's also compromising himself by deactivating his dark square bishop, which will likely be brought out with some sort of, like e5 in the future to break up the center and allow his light square bishop to develop. But in the opening, he has to compromise. e3. It's now that black has committed his center to be very solid. White would not like to go for the same plan since his bishop would be almost as useless as black's. So he's going to try to play a regular queen's gambit with a bishop e3. But it's an interesting setup as he is also compromising himself with his dark square bishop. Knight d to d7, bishop to e3, dc4. So what black's trying to do here is white's already made a move with the bishop, right? So if he could, he would not like to make another move. So Vichy is forcing him to make another move with the bishop. So it's a win for black. And now b5, Vichy is trying to be aggressive against the bishop. It's not good or bad really, but he's kind of alleviating all the potential plans. Like he might play c5 or e5. It's kind of confusing, but I don't think b5 is absolutely necessary. I would just play bishop to d6. But, b5, I can't say anything about it either. We have b5, bishop to d3, bishop to d6, castles, castles. This is a regular position. Bishop to b7. So now we see Vichy's plan. Rather than going e5, he's going to go c5 and open up the bishop, as we will see in a few more moves. So a3. This is a more prophylactic move to prevent b4 in the future. If black wants to play aggressively with a5, white is fine with it since it only helps white really. Rook to c8, knight to g5, And now we see c5 in action. I would not play knight to g5. It's it's very refutable. It doesn't do anything. It's actually kind of surprising to see a grandmaster play this type of move. So this is the correct idea. It's kind of obvious to see. You're like, you win a pawn, but your knight is going to be so useless that it doesn't matter. This is what a lot of people don't understand. They're immediately going to like bop h6 and then knight to g to e4. This is his idea. This is a position white wants. If, and a lot of people will just immediately take, we recapture. Now white gains a tempo on the bishop. The c5 score is extremely weak for the knight to hop into. And white's dark squares are not performing well, with the added benefit of this kind of pawn structure, which makes the c5 score extremely weak, and black can never make the vital pawn break of c5 ever. So this is completely lost in a positional standpoint for black. Instead, we see the absolutely needed c5, which is very important. But knight g5 is a clever trap at lower levels, because I definitely know many people are just gonna snap h6. Knight takes h7, knight to g4. I mean, c5, knight takes h7, knight to g4. So, what he's trying to do here is that there's actually an attack brewing on the king side. And since white's pieces are all completely misplaced, there's no defenders on the king side, black can easily attack. I will credit one of um, YouTubers' advice that you should usually have two more pieces than your opponent when you're attacking the king side. And this is exactly what Anand has here. He has, well, he has four actually. He has even more. He's a queen that's about to come in, a knight, a bishop, a knight. Well, white only has I could say a queen and a rook, I guess. But this knight isn't going to help ever, really. So, we have f4. White is now going aggressive. He sees that he's going to be attacked and he's forced to block the diagonal. If he plays a regular move like h3, for example, there's actually a nice tactic here. Queen to h4. If you capture, mate. And now there's numerous threats on the queen side, which black can employ swiftly. For example, if you play a regular move like bishop to d2, you're literally checkmated. I know, this is crazy. Because if you capture, there's double bishop checkmate. If you don't, then there's queen to h7. So you literally could get mated. So that's why it's only move to play something like f4. F3 is also really bad because you also get mated. Yeah. And you lose the pawn. So f4. I think that's the only move, by the way. So you block the diagonal, but you're making compromises in your pawn structure. White would really like to play e5. Oh, wait. Is this e5? Yeah, it's e5. But the problem is that his e pawn is hanging and it's black to move. So this is really the only move. And now white's pawn structure is compromised, but his bishop is now trying to get active. As we see here, with risky gambits like this, white is completely out of play. Black has this beautiful bishop, which was the whole point of b5, and now is going to vigorously attack. So, Vishy starts with the beautiful bishop to c5, sacrificing the bishop. His idea is, if you capture, you take, and it's surprising. It's not even a forced sequence. Literally every bishop move is somehow bad. Here, fork. Here, there's actually a forced mate. Tell me if you can find it. I already showed you. Smothered mate. I know that's crazy. In these type of sharp positions, you should always look out for tactics in checkmate. That's why I recommend training your tactics and stuff. I mean, nobody can see bishop to c5, but still, for small smothered mates like that, you should look out. Bishop to e2, not only move, you can move your bishop really anywhere. No, you can't move your bishop really anywhere. Actually, it is the only move. Never mind, I'm just bad at chess. You attack the knight, forcing it out. I mean, it doesn't matter because he sacrifices three pieces at once. Not two. The bishop is hanging. If you take it, there is the smothered mate sequence, but faster. If you take, you can take the knight two ways. One way. If you take it this way, there is yet again smothered mate. So both of his pieces are invincible, and at the same time, he defends his g5 knight. This is just crazy. Bishop takes d4 happens. No, Aronian takes on g4. I mean, there's no really good move to survive. King, he he has a Zug, which we call it in chess, which is a complex word for intermediate move, which is where see, as Anand, if you take here, you hang your bishop, right? So you would not like to hang your bishop. Hopefully, you don't want to hang your bishop. So you take on d4 with check, and now white has no moves to save his bishop. So king to h1, only move, take, knight takes f8. Aronian is up material, but it really doesn't matter. Oh yeah, I want to mention the whole time this rook was just casually hanging. He sacrificed the rook. He didn't really sacrifice the rook. So the rook was hanging the whole time. Blah blah blah. Knight takes g4. Knight takes f8. f5. This is kind of unnecessary. At this point, he's bragging. You could just play g6. There's nothing. No, you can't play g6. I would just take the knight. He's just bragging at this point that he's winning. I mean, I can't say anything because I would probably do the same thing. Knight to g6, queen to f6. Sorry if my voice is getting slightly louder in places because I just got a mic and I don't know how to use a mic. h3, queen takes g6. It doesn't matter if he takes, but you actually can't take because two of these queen moves are mate. I don't know how that's mate, but okay. So queen to e2, not forced, of course. And now the pawn is absolutely pinned. It is an absolute pin. Queen to d3, which means that white, even if white wanted to take with the pawn, he literally can't because the king would be hanging and that's illegal. By the way, I just want to know how many people think that taking the king should be legal? I mean, it's kind of useless. I would like to win some games and hopefully not lose any from that. And also, by the way, this h3 pawn is actually hanging because if you're paying attention, the bishop, which again was activated by this nice b5 idea, and the pawn was hanging the whole time also, is actually again pinning the pawn. So, as we see, for some reason he doesn't. No, wait, he can't take, never mind. And bishop to e3, he's just being fancy. You can play really any move. I would just play knight to here and just win the rook. Because if here, just win the queen, the rook, yeah, because you would have to take here. But Anand defeats Aronian in style with bishop to e3. And the point is, if you take here, there's checkmate in 2. And if you think you're smart and take the queen, you hung your queen. Congratulations. And you hung mate too. Good job. So, Bishop takes e3, queen takes h3, no wait, he resigned here. He resigned here. We just played it a bit on, yeah. So, in this crazy game, which I didn't even notice that Black's rook was hanging the whole time, Anand makes a comeback. I want to mention that 2013 was one of Anand's worst years because this was actually the year where Carlsen beat Kasparov, and somehow Carlsen thinks that this is his favorite game, although he literally beat Kasparov in the same year. Well, without all this lore ado, I will end the video. Thank you, and subscribe and like and hit the bell and close the tab on your refrigerator, and see you later and whatever. Now get out here.